Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the Golden Nail Podcast. This podcast exists. We're going to dig into some deep topics. It's kind of the opposite of my other podcast. We dig in, show a lot of connections, find some terms and put some use to them, really kind of dig into life, see a lot of the detail and the connection and why it all works together so great. My other podcast, we just did a podcast. It was about this song from The Gladiator by a lady by the name of Lisa Gerrard. If you want to get some background onto this before you start this, that was a great podcast. It just kind of introduced the topic. Those are short podcasts, just kind of dig into see the glory of things quickly. This podcast is going to take that concept and dig in even deeper. So let's kind of dig in. Excuse me, looking at my notes, I got to find a better way to do this. But Lisa's song, it's at the end of the movie. This movie's a great movie. It's got a lot of culture in it. It's about this gladiator who saves Rome. He's a hero, an honorable man. His family was killed. There's a lot of drama in it. There's some deception in it. His family gets killed. He redeems them. He redeems himself, fights for his country, and basically destroys a tyrant. Excuse me. It's a great movie. It's got a lot of neat things in it, but you get to the end of the movie where he's dying and the movie's finishing up, and there's this great song playing in the background. And as we discussed in the other podcast, there's no words to the song. There's a woman singing, and it's got these great vocals, and it sounds like a language, but it's not a true language. There's no actual words. It's just sounds that are meant to sound good for the sake of emotion. And we discussed, why that. And this podcast is going to dig in even deeper to the why. Why would there be this song without words? Because Lisa Gerrard making the song, she has reasons why she sings that way. She's made a career out of that, and we're going to kind of dig into that. So one thing I want to kind of emphasize with this, the concept of this movie with this great song at the end of it. Why would it not have words? Does it really need it? And I'm going to grant the point, if you have this movie with all this culture and with this great story and all that, you don't really need a song where she's making these noises and they don't have to make words. They don't have to make a point because the movie made the point. And if you're merely kind of emotionally going along with it, it's okay. It's okay. It's a little weird, but it's okay I can grant that point. She's being emotional through just sounds. And it kind of fits because the movie's already made the point, and she's just kind of being emotional about that point. So I can grant that. There's something neat in that. We're going to be talking about that more in a bit, but that's one thing I wanted to concede. But at the same time, like I said, Lisa makes music like this often. She does it for, I think, other movies. I know she had a band. It's called Dead Can Dance. It's an interesting band. They make a lot of different types of songs. A lot of them they're kind of that epic sort of song. And in a lot of them, she does this vocalization where she sings these songs without actual words. They're very emotional based songs, and she's made a career out of it. And one thing I want to make clear, it's not like I want to deprive her of being able to sing the way that she wants to sing. I mean, life is about liberty and freedom, and you can do that. But like I said in the last podcast, you do lose things when you do that. I don't want to go over that. Go and listen to the other podcast. But here's some things about when you're singing without words and trying to be emotional. If you're merely trying to be emotional, what emotion are you really being? Why are you being that emotion? Is there any tie to it? Are you expressing the right emotion? Within the context, are you expressing something that, you're, I don't know, being a wimp, or you're not facing reality, you're being foolish? We don't know that because there's no tie. There's no words to go along with the sounds. We don't know if you're being a coward. We don't know, maybe you're being courageous. We don't know. It's all disconnected. When you throw away the words, there's no connection to the song. We can't know why, the real why. And the one thing that I thought that would be really weird about this song, if you go out and pick up if you just picked up the soundtrack, I related it to the movie, and the great movie with all its excellence and how it fits with the movie. But what if you picked up the soundtrack and the movie wasn't going along with the song? You're just listening to the song without all the background of the movie. The song's not going to make any sense. It can sound emotional and it can sound beautiful, but again, there's no connection. Why that emotion? There's no point to it. So that's kind of where we get to with this. And to give a little bit of background why, I don't know, this stirs me up the way that it does. Me and my wife decided to homeschool our kids a long time ago. And when we were going through that, the reason we wanted to homeschool our kids might be different from a lot of people. It was kind of a simple reason, actually. Some people have those reasons where they want to separate from public schools because they're evil or something like that. We weren't like that at all. It's not that we thought public schooling was evil. We just felt we could do more. We felt, for one thing, we were responsible for our kids to raise them up well and teach them and to really dig into things a little deeper than public school could. And as we were going through that, I came across a kind of education that is not really used much anymore. They call it classical education. And classical education has a certain way that it tends to work. Most people that do classical education, they teach their kids Latin, as an example. Which is hilarious with Gladiator. Gladiator's all done in Rome, and the Roman language was Latin. And so that's one thing that they do. They teach Latin, they teach logic, and they also teach rhetoric. They teach a lot of Greek philosophy. They teach Roman history. They're really big on that old stuff. And the weird thing about classical education is, like as an example, Latin is basically kind of a dead language. It relates to English in ways, it relates to French, to many of the Western culture. Those languages, they grew out of Latin, so it's not entirely dead. We've moved on with it, but nobody runs around speaking Latin all the time anymore. So why was classical education interesting to me? I didn't have any interest in teaching my kids Latin or teaching a lot of the Greek philosophy, all that kind of stuff. I mean, there's a lot of great stuff in it, but it ended up that didn't work for us anyway, teaching classical education stuff at first anyway. But the more I learned about classical education, the more I watched myself learn. Even as I was getting older, we never stopped learning. And the one thing neat about classical education, when you pulled away the Latin, when you pulled away the Greek philosophy and the Roman history and all the other things that come together to do classical education was about something more. There are these 3 steps. The first step is called grammar. And when you teach grammar, you're usually teaching it to a young kid. And at that time in their life, they pick up knowledge real easily. Learning the names of things and learning, well, this is the color red. This is a date. This is the date this thing happened on. And these are your ABCs. These are nouns and verbs. This is math. These are numbers. And you take this number plus this number and you get, addition. When you teach them those bits and pieces of how things work, that was called grammar. And really, the more I looked at it, when you teach somebody these pieces and parts and you're developing grammar, you're developing their mind. You're giving them bits and pieces of the world and expanding their mind, so the more of the bits and pieces they know, the more they know how the world is, how it is, the pieces and parts of it. Like a song, the words to a song. But we'll get back to that. The next step in the education process, there's 3 steps. The first is grammar, the second is logic. Logic, you take those pieces and parts and you start making sense of them. You see how the pieces and parts are connected. And a lot of times math is a part of logic. But it's the development of the understanding. And when you develop understanding, you're actually developing what they call the heart. The heart's not literally inside your chest. It's something a little bit more than that. In philosophy, there was a saying that the heart is the seat of understanding. So you're not just developing your mind, there's something a little bit extra. And when you really start to understand things, when you get a love for them, when you get an understanding, the emotions tend to tie with it. And when you have that understanding, you have that heart reaction. You feel it in your heart. When you start to love something really catches you, you feel it in your chest. And for some reason, the heart, it's understood as that seat of wisdom, that seat of understanding. And so that's the next step. And you tend to get in that when you're like, a young teenager, and you start to question, why, Dad? Why does 2 + 2 = 4? Or, why did somebody make a song without words? Those types of questions start coming up when after you get the pieces and parts, and then you get older and you start to understand, well, the world works a certain way. Why does it work that way? Then you start working with logic. And then the next step, it goes even beyond that, where you have the pieces and parts, you kind of understand how things work, and then you see people not doing what they should, or you're being asked to do things that you don't really want to do by your parents that are teaching you, and you start talking back and you say, well, you're wrong on this. You start making an argument, and they call that rhetoric. That's the third step. It's called rhetoric. And the interesting thing about rhetoric is when you pull away things like Roman history and all that to teach rhetoric, and when you just start digging down into it, you have the mind for grammar, you have the heart for logic. Rhetoric develops the will. You have the courage to speak back to your parents and say, is that really right? I don't believe that's right. Are you sure, Dad? And you, not only them, but I mean your friends, to the government, to your aunts and uncles, your grandparents, whoever's pushing a view on you that you don't think is right, you grab the courage and you start to act, and you start to fight back a little bit. No, that's not right. That's not true. It's more than just rhetoric. It's more than just speaking back, but it's also, if you ask me, it's also taking that knowledge, those bits and pieces and parts, taking that understanding and building something. Seeing that, there's particles all over the floor, and you understand that could be picked up with a vacuum cleaner. You grab the vacuum and you vacuum it up and make the place clean. That's the will. That's the will in action. So I understood, and I still understand, and it seems to be a little bit different than most people with their understanding of classical education. I saw this, and I reoriented my understanding of classical education, and not a lot of people believe it this way. I think it's something kind of special. The reason I really enjoy classical education is because it's a more full development of the person. It's developing your mind, developing your heart, developing your will. These are crucial aspects to any person. And public education right now, and a lot of the even private education, and even some people that do classical education, they're not really interested in developing those things. They're more interested in subjects. We're just going to teach you math, but we're not going to teach you the bits and pieces and the why and how to go out and do it. It does a little bit. I mean, like I remember in school, we used to have to do story problems where they would give you, okay, here's a math, you got 2 apples, and Johnny gives you 2 more apples. How many do you have? There's a bit of that. I mean, that is classical education kind of at work, but it's less driven. It's less intentional, where you really dig in and you really develop that mind. You really develop the heart, and you really develop the will, and you push them a little, not in a bad way, but encouraging them, because the more as a person you're able to use your mind and your heart and your will, the more you're going to see the world for what it really is, understand it for what it really is, and really be able to engage the world instead of running from it. And that's, I guess, why I'm making such a big deal out of just a song without words. Why do you care, Nick? It's this lady, she's got a career, she's made a good career out of this. It's a beautiful song. She makes a lot of beautiful songs. She's got this band, she makes a lot of money. She's touched a lot of people. And I get that, I get all of that. But if she understood how important grammar, the mind are, if she understood more how important the will is and how important it is to engage the world with your emotions properly, if there were words in that song, and the emotion was built off from those words, and it was a really strong emotion, one that we knew why it was what it is, and we were able to take those and do something with it. Like, as an example, I brought up in the first one that I wanted to sing along with that song. I wanted to know the words, and I wanted to sing with the words, and I wanted to know what it meant, and I wanted to be a part of it, and I wanted to do something with it. I wanted to actually bring that noise out of my mouth and feel those emotions. When you can't do it because those structures are broken down, because we as a society, we're not concerned about the mind and the heart and the will anymore. Instead, we're just concerned about the pieces and parts. We're just concerned about whether somebody's emotional or not, and that's all we're really concerned about. Make sure you have the right emotions, even though we don't understand whether they're really good or not, because we've kind of skipped that part. So that's why I'm making such a big deal out of this song. Getting to this real quick. So then, to get back to what Lisa's motivations and stuff, the band that she is part of, she came out with a statement. And if you go on to Wikipedia as an example, it talks about Lisa and why she does the music that she does. And they call it this term glossolalia. And we're going to get into that, what it is more in a moment. But she denies that she does glossolalia. But what she does do, she came out and she said she came up with this singing style when she was a kid. And she actually kind of invented her own language. Now, I don't know what that means because they don't have a lot of detail out online. To do that, when you they call it idioglossia. It's a big term, and I know with Gloria Omnia, we're going to get away from those big terms and not mess things up, get all that garbage in the way. And Gloria Omnia, we're kind of getting that stuff out of the way so we can just get to the deep things and pull it out and see the glory in them. With Goad Nail, we're going to do a little more. So idioglossia, what does that mean? I mean, let's let that goad us a little bit. The whole goad and nail. Well, here's the nail. What is idioglossia? Idioglossia, it's kind of interesting. When you have twins as an example, you have these young kids that are twins, and you have it also if you have kids that are together and they've been kind of in a stressful environment, it's pretty common for them to come up with their own language. They start coming up with their own words and stuff like that. It's a way to deal with the struggle that's around them. And idioglossia just kind of means private language or particular tongue, I think was another good translation of what that means. So that's what Lisa Gerrard, that's what she actually did as a child. And I don't know whether it was trauma or, a stressful situation or what. Maybe it was something fun for her to do. She came up with her own private language. Now, I don't know, again, if she has particular sounds and stuff like that she always uses. And those mean a particular thing, like a particular emotion or that kind of thing, because there's not a lot out there. Who knows? But she did actually come up with that. They have a term for it, and that's what she did. And it's interesting. It's neat. Again, it's not based on a truth. It's not based on facts, and there's no real connection a lot to the will. But it is an interesting phenomenon. The other one, the one I brought up a moment ago, Wikipedia says that she's involved in glossolalia. Glossolalia is another weird term, but I can break it down. Glossolalia, it's basically, if you've ever heard the term speaking in tongues, it's a real religious thing. If you go into some, how would they describe it? Charismatic churches. Charismatic churches, if you go to some of their services, sometimes you'll hear people just start making funny noises. And they say that they're speaking in languages of angels or something to that effect, or it's another language and it needs to be interpreted. It can be a real big mess. And the interesting thing is, like I said, people say that that's what Lisa Gerrard is doing, and she kind of tilts between the two because she did come out and say that the reason that she made up her language was a way to speak to God. And since it's not an actual language, she is correct in saying that she does not believe in glossolalia. Now, that gets weird. It gets to be a really weird mess of what is glossolalia, what is idioglossia. It's weird, and I guess I shouldn't go too far into it. But when people do that, when they do the glossolalia, it's really common, and it's even talked about in the Bible. And it's said, don't do that because you're going to set yourself above other people. And there's a reason why when you do it, you should give an interpretation for it. Because you're setting yourself above, you're thinking you're better because you have this angelic language that nobody else understands. And in Lisa Gerrard's case, she kind of does the same thing. And in a way, she sidesteps the whole arrogance of glossolalia by saying, no, it's a language that I made up and I'm not trying to be better than other people. But when she separates her language from everybody else, and she's having emotions, just a nice emotional conversation with God, and you don't, she's better than you because she's just being emotional, and that's special. You're not able to do that. You're not able to partake in her language because her language doesn't even have words that you can grab onto. But she can have this special moment with God, speaking with God in this special language that nobody else can. And there's a real danger in that. So, let me make sure I'm not missing anything here. Sorry. There's another part of this that kind of concerns me. When we divorce ourselves from knowledge, when we divorce ourselves from the will and just try to be emotional, there's things that we should be in life. And this isn't to run around and judge. It's just we as human beings, we're kind of here for a reason. We have these capabilities. And some of those are to interact with other people. And there's a word that I think is a really important word that we don't talk about in our culture much at all anymore. It's because we're kind of afraid of shame. We're afraid of judging other people. And we should just a little bit, for the sake of helping people, for the sake of showing them that they're not being all that they could be. You could have made a song with words. But it's the word abdication. It's that we have kind of a responsibility to ourselves especially. You should build up yourself to be all that you should, because nobody else really, when it comes down to it, you have to live your life. Your parents even can't live your life. They would like to because they really love you and they'd like your life to turn out great, but you have to do it. And abdication is the concept that you have these gifts, you have these abilities, you have the ability to use your mind, to use your heart, and to use your will. And it's not just for everybody else, it's mainly for yourself. It's also for, I'd say, the God that created you. He made you for a purpose. And you have this life that you get to live, and you shouldn't waste it. You shouldn't just throw away your mind. You shouldn't just throw away your will. You shouldn't just dump yourself all into emotions and then misuse emotions because you don't know what is a good emotion. So abdication is really grabbing a hold of it, not only for yourself, but for God and for the people around you. Make yourself the best person you can. And that's why this song gets to be kind of a mess. And if we're going to use our will, if we're going to use that courage, we can, like I was talking about earlier, you can see those pieces of stuff on the floor. You can grab a vacuum and you can vacuum it up. You can make the world a better place. When you see somebody struggling, you can know, I struggled too, I get it. And you can come alongside them and help them out of that. Oh, you know what? The reason you're kind of a mess is because you're singing emotions, but you have no root, you have no base to it, you have no fundamentals to it. And you're all emotional, but maybe you don't even need to be. You could understand some knowledge, you could have a better, stronger mind and go, well, I can use my emotions for good things. I can cry when I really need to, not just because it's some goofy, I don't know, somebody told you have to feel a certain way and you don't. So one thing I want, me kind of pushing everybody right now, goading them with all this, you could live your life more fully, you could use your mind well, you could use your emotions well, you could be more logical. Obviously that gets tough because I know I wanted to start this podcast 20 years ago. It took me 20 years to get this podcast off the ground. Why? Because I was scared. Because like right now, I'm doing this live. I'm doing it with a tablet sitting in front of me so that I don't forget some of the things I want to say, and I probably already have. It's a terrifying thing. And I get that I'm telling you right now to live your life more fully, and that's going to be a scary thing. And you're not going to want to. You're going to say, no, I'm happy, thanks. I don't want to use my mind. I don't want to know how to use my mind more. I don't want to use my will more because I've done it in the past and it's hurt me. Because I'm scared. Because people have crapped on me. Because, I know there are a ton of reasons. I had them. I had a ton of them. That's why it took me 20 years to get this podcast off the ground. So getting back to Lisa's song for a minute to kind of wrap this up some. Hey, my shirt's all backwards. The one cool thing about this, and it's one of the reasons why I do Gloria Omni and I'm doing this podcast, Lisa's song is a beautiful song. despite Lisa's worst efforts. And I don't mean that in a really negative way. Lisa with those notes, Lisa with her voice, Lisa with having put together some good pieces of emotion, and she did have some knowledge in what she was doing. She knew some things, and she used her will. She actually sang, she actually took the courage and made a song for a big movie. No matter how hard we try going through life, a lot of times we're like a little kid that turns on the faucet when you're too young to know what you're really doing, and all of a sudden that water starts gushing out. And you're like, what the heck? And you're playing with the faucet, and you can't get the faucet shut back off because you don't really know how it works. And you put the hand up to the faucet, and that water's still spraying all over the place. That's how we are in life. And that's what I think kind of Lisa was making that song. And I think we do this all the time. No matter how much you screw up, no matter how good of a job you do, a lot of times you're like that kid with that faucet. And no matter how hard you try to stop that water coming out, it's going to keep coming out. And a lot of that's the glory of life. Because Lisa, with her best and worst efforts, that wasn't a perfect song. But it was a really good song. It's a great thing that she made it. I still enjoy that song. And I want to encourage you, you might be in that spot where there's a podcast you could make, or simply something you could do with your life that you haven't been doing for 20 years. My purpose in making this podcast is to encourage people. It's to show the glory of the life that's around us. There are bits and pieces in front of you that you could be making use of. And goad and nail, the goads are things like, why is there a song without words? And then there's the nail, or, well, this is why there are songs without words. Because, Lisa came up with this language to express emotion. Okay, that's a nail. That's a truth. It's a solid truth. And it's not terrible. Would it have been better for her to make a song with words? Yeah. Why? Because emotion standing on its own is a bit of a mess. Because you can't have a real good willful response if there's not knowledge to back up that emotion. All these things work together. There are questions that goad you. And in this world, people can present nails. This is why things are. This is why you can have a good song that doesn't have words, that does have vocals. And it could be even better if the word song had vocals, and people could interact with it even better. So, is there anything else I want to say? I brought up God earlier. I want to say something. Goad and nail is a phrase. I could say the whole thing, but it doesn't matter right now. Maybe I'll do a podcast more about it in the future. Goad and nail actually comes from a Bible verse, a number of Bible verses set together, and it was about the difficulties of life, the struggles of life, and trying to make sense of those. And those things, like I said before, they goad you. And the truths of life, that those struggles exist for your sake, are nails. They give us support. They help us to see why things are the way we are so that we can know and understand and move forward. So that's what this podcast is about, is giving us these goads, why are things the way they are, and giving us the understanding so that we can move forward with confidence. And I don't intend on every single episode of either Gloria Omnia or Goad and Nail being this big Christian sermon or something like that, or something where you have to be a Christian in order to understand the things I'm talking about. But it is underneath everything I say, and I'm not apologetic about it. I am who I am, and hopefully you get something out of these podcasts, whether you're a Christian or you're not. But I did want to make sure I am a Christian, and I'm not going to apologize for it. And at the same time, I think you can get a lot out of these podcasts one way or another. So I just encourage you, develop your mind, develop your understanding, develop your heart, develop your emotions, and develop your will. Grab some courage out of these podcasts. Look under things for the glory that are all around us. This is not a Gloria Omnia podcast, but they fit together so well. So I want to thank you for the time. Like I said, 20 years getting this going. This is my first Goad and Nail podcast. I wanted to get this going so long ago, and now it's here. My first one's pretty much done. I use the word beloved in these. Hello, greetings, beloved. It's one of my favorite phrases. And I don't say it a lot, but it's always underneath things. So I want to thank you all, beloved, for listening to the Goad and Nail podcast, and blessings to you all. Thank you.